I lived next door to him for almost 7 years. We shared a wall, and for most of that time, I didn't know who he really was. I'm not telling this story because I want attention or sympathy. I'm telling it because I think people need to understand that monsters don't always hide in shadows. Sometimes, they mow their lawns on Sunday mornings. Sometimes, they wave at your kids. Sometimes, they ask you to sign for their packages while they're at work. Sometimes, they live next door. When I moved into the duplex, I was 28, just out of a rough breakup, looking for something quiet, cheap, and temporary. The place was old, a little run down, but it had charm. Brick walls, old wooden floors that creaked, a fireplace that didn't work but made the living room feel cozy, and rent was dirt cheap. My neighbour, he introduced himself as Dan, seemed fine, polite, quiet, a little stiff maybe, but unremarkable in every way. Early 40s, short, buzzed hair, wire-frame glasses, always wearing slacks, even on weekends. You'd forget his face the second you looked away. The landlord said he lived there for a long time and paid his rent early every month. Never had any complaints. In hindsight, that should have been the first red flag. We didn't talk much, some light conversation in the driveway, weather, trash day, small stuff. Once or twice he brought over mail that accidentally ended up in his box. That was about it. But there were little things I didn't think about much at the time, but now keep me up at night. Like how he never had visitors, not once, or how I'd sometimes see his car leave at 2, 3 in the morning, no headlights, just quietly rolling out of the driveway like he didn't want anyone to notice. Or how once I saw him carrying something wrapped in tarp out to his trunk, heavy. Took him a while. He said it was old plumbing from the kitchen. I remember that because he smiled when he said it. It was the only time I ever saw him smile. For years I chalked it up to him just being private, reclusive, weird, but harmless. Then 3 things happened, all within the span of one summer, that changed everything. Late June, I started noticing a sour, metallic odour drifting in through the shared vent in the bathroom. At first I thought it was dead rodents. This place had a few from time to time. But it didn't go away. If anything, it got stronger, sickly sweet, like rotting meat and bleach. I reported it to the landlord. He said he'd talk to Dan. But a few days later, Dan caught me in the driveway. He was polite but firm, told me the smell was from a dead possum in his attic and that he was handling it. But his eyes, they didn't match the calm tone of his voice. They looked excited. The second thing was the woman. I came home from work one night around 8:30 and saw someone standing on his porch. Young woman, maybe late 20s. She looked panicked, pale, barefoot, holding her arms like she was freezing. She saw my headlights and started walking toward me, fast, but before she got to my car, Dan stepped out of the shadows. I hadn't even seen him there. He grabbed her by the arm and said something I couldn't hear. She froze. Then slowly, almost mechanically, she turned around and walked back inside with him. I sat in my car for a solid 5 minutes trying to make sense of it. Eventually I convinced myself they were a couple having a fight, or maybe she was drunk or high. I didn't call the cops. That decision will haunt me forever. The third thing was the box. Mid-July, I came home to find a small cardboard box on my doorstep. No label, no note, just my name written in thick black marker. I opened it inside. Inside were photographs. Printed, physical photographs. Dozens of them, all of me. Some from the front yard, some through my windows. One of me inside my living room. One of me inside my bedroom, always taken from odd angles, low to the ground, through blinds, half obscured by bushes. And on the back of every photo was a date. Some from months ago, some from years, some just a week old. I threw up, and then I called the police. They searched his place that night, knocked, waited, no answer, broke the door down. What they found made national news, though the details were never all made public. I only know what I saw and what they told me later. The whole place was staged like a normal apartment, living room, kitchen, bedroom, but every closet was locked from the outside. And downstairs, beneath the floorboards in the basement, was a crawl space, roughly 6 feet wide, maybe 3 feet tall. He dug it out by hand, they think, over years. Inside were locks of hair, fingernails, teeth, and names, dates, Polaroids, dozens of women. One of them was a girl I saw that night on his porch. Some of the photos were too old to be recent. Some of the women have still never been identified. Dan, if that was ever his real name, disappeared. Gone without a trace. They found his car abandoned in a parking garage across the state line, wiped clean. No prints, no blood, no body. He was just gone. For weeks after I couldn't sleep. Every creak in the floor, every rattle in the vents. I thought he'd come back. I thought maybe he'd left something behind in my walls. I moved, left everything behind. I still don't live in one place for too long. I check the locks every night, twice, sometimes 3 times. Because the truth is, the scariest part wasn't what he did. It was that I didn't know. For 7 years, I lived next to something inhuman, and I had no idea. I shook his hand. I borrowed his lawnmower. I laughed at his dumb weather jokes. And if he hadn't made one mistake, one box, one slip, I might have lived next to him forever, or died next to him, whichever came first. So the next time someone tells you their neighbour gives them a bad feeling, believe them, because monsters don't always wear masks. Sometimes they live next door.